There's a moment that happens every single morning for most people alive right now. It happens before they're fully conscious, before they've taken a full breath, before they've even opened their eyes completely. Their hand moves, almost involuntarily, toward the nightstand. Fingers find the phone in the dark, the way hands find familiar things without needing sight to do it. And the screen lights up. In those first 5 seconds of the day, before a single thought has formed, before the mind has had even a moment to simply be, the algorithm has already begun. Think about that. The very first experience of your day, at the threshold between sleep and waking, between the subconscious and the conscious world, that liminal, almost sacred space has been handed to a platform engineered in Silicon Valley by people who have never met you and are not thinking about your well-being. Most people will not recognize this as a problem because most people are doing it. And when everyone around you is doing the same thing, it stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like weather, something that just happens, something you just live inside. But there's something worth sitting with here. What if this habit, this one single habit that most people have never consciously chosen, is quietly shaping the texture of your entire life? Your mood, your ambition, your relationships, your sense of self, your capacity to sit alone with your own thoughts without reaching for something to fill the space. What if the most important fight of your generation isn't happening in politics or economics or any of the places people usually look, but inside the 4 inches of glass you carry everywhere you go?
Nobody sat down one day and decided to spend 4 hours a day on their phone. That's not how it works. It never works like that. It works the way most things that quietly take over a life work. Gradually, invisibly, wrapped in something that feels completely reasonable at each individual step. First, it was just checking email, then checking social media once in the morning, once at night. Then the apps got better, faster, more interesting. Then there were notifications. Then there were stories. Then there were reels and shorts and an endless vertical scroll that never runs out because it was specifically engineered to never run out. And somewhere in all of that, without any single dramatic moment, the phone stopped being a tool and became something closer to a nervous system, an extension of consciousness, the thing you reach for the moment life offers you any silence at all. People check their phones while waiting for coffee to brew, a process that takes 90 seconds. They check them at red lights. They check them in the middle of conversations when the other person looks away. They check them in bathrooms and elevators and in the dark after they've said goodnight to the person sleeping next to them. There's a specific kind of modern loneliness that happens in bed at night, scrolling, while the person you love most in the world lies 3 feet away from you, also scrolling. 2 people in the same room, together and completely absent from each other. Each of them staring into a feed curated by an algorithm that knows their insecurities better than they know themselves. Nobody chose this, but here we are. The strange thing about habits that form gradually is that they never feel like something being taken from you. They feel like something you're simply doing, a choice, a preference. I like to check social media in the mornings, as if a preference formed inside a system carefully designed to create exactly that preference is a genuine expression of your own will.
It's the kind of thing that only becomes visible when you step back far enough to look at it. And most people never step back because the phone is always right there. And stepping back requires sitting in discomfort for a moment. And the phone eliminates discomfort the instant it appears. That's not an accident. That's the product. Part 3. The machine that never sleeps.
here's something worth understanding about how the human brain actually works. Not in a clinical, textbook way, but in a practical, this is your life way. Your brain has a reward system. When something good happens, when you eat something tasty, when you accomplish something difficult, when someone you care about tells you they love you, your brain releases a little hit of dopamine, a chemical signal that says, "This was good, remember this, do it again." It's an ancient system built for an ancient world, a world where finding food required effort, where connection required showing up physically, where rewards were real and had weight and took time. Social media found a way to hack that system completely. Every notification is a small hit. Every like is a hit. Every comment, every view, every time the number goes up, your brain responds as if something meaningful just happened. Even though nothing meaningful happened. Even though a stranger double tapping a photo of your lunch is not, in any real sense, an event that should register as significant. But your brain doesn't know that. Your brain is running on ancient software in a modern world, and the people who built these platforms knew it. Think about the pull to refresh gesture, that motion of pulling down on your feed to load new content. It was modeled on slot machines. The variable reward schedule, sometimes you pull and there's something great, sometimes there's nothing, is the most addictive reinforcement pattern that behavioral psychology has ever identified. Casinos have known this for 100 years. Silicon Valley applied it to a product that lives in your pocket. You are not weak for finding your phone hard to put down. You are not undisciplined or lacking willpower. You are a human being with a biological reward system that was never designed to withstand something engineered at this level of sophistication to capture your attention. But understanding why something is hard doesn't mean you're powerless to it. The first step out of any trap is seeing the trap clearly. Let's talk about time. Not in the abstract, motivational poster way people usually talk about time. In a concrete, uncomfortable, specific way. The average person spends between 4 and 7 hours on their phone every day. Most of that is social media. Most of that social media time is passive. Not creating, not connecting in any meaningful sense, just scrolling, consuming. Watching the lives of other people arranged for maximum appeal. 4 hours a day is 28 hours a week. That's a part-time job. That's the equivalent of learning a language, building a business, writing a book, training for a marathon, or becoming genuinely skilled at almost anything you've ever told yourself you didn't have time for. And here is where it gets truly uncomfortable. Most people have dreams they've quietly stopped believing in. Things they wanted to do, create, build, explore, master, that have slowly slid into a mental drawer labeled someday. And they tell themselves the reason is time. That modern life is just too busy, too demanding, too full. That someday, when things slow down, they'll get to those things. But the hours are there. They're being spent. They're just being spent somewhere that leaves nothing behind. There's a specific feeling that comes at the end of a long scrolling session. And most people know it, even if they've never articulated it. It's a kind of dull flatness, a vague guilt with no specific target. A sense of time having passed without anything to show for it. You're not satisfied, but you're somehow less hungry than you were before. Less interested in the world, less energized, slightly more restless. That's what depletion feels like. Not dramatic, not devastating, just quietly, incrementally draining. And then there's focus. The human attention span was never unlimited. But there's something happening right now that's genuinely new. People are losing the ability to sit with a single thought for any sustained period of time, to read a long book and stay in it, to watch a film without picking up their phone, to sit in a waiting room without needing to fill every second, to be bored, genuinely, ordinarily bored, and let that boredom turn, the way it always used to, into something. A daydream, an idea, a question about the world.
Boredom was never the enemy. Boredom was the soil that creativity grew in. And what that means for the interior life, for the depth and richness of a person's inner world, is something we're only beginning to understand. In 2010, the average person had meaningful access to maybe a few dozen people in their daily life. Family, friends, colleagues, neighbors, the butcher who knew your name. Now, you can reach anyone. Thousands of people can see what you had for breakfast. You can watch a stranger in Tokyo play guitar in real time. You can get messages from people on every continent. And yet, and this is genuinely strange when you hold it up to the light, people have never reported feeling lonely. There's something about the nature of connection that social media fundamentally misunderstands, or perhaps deliberately ignores. Connection isn't about access. It isn't about visibility. It isn't about the number of people who've seen your face. Connection is about being known, really known. Not curated for, not performed at, not summarized in a bio and expressed through a carefully chosen highlight reel. Known, messy, complicated, inconsistent, fully human. Social media deals almost exclusively in surfaces. What your life looks like, not what it feels like. The best version of a moment, not the full texture of a day. A photograph, not the conversation that happened before or after it. And when you consume hundreds of those surfaces every single day, something subtle starts to shift. You start to relate to your own life as something that should look a certain way. You develop a slight but persistent sense that real life is the performance, and the feed is the thing that matters. That moments are for capturing, that experiences are for sharing. There's a specific modern tragedy that plays out at concerts, at sunsets, at birthday parties, at moments of genuine beauty, of people holding up phones to record something instead of simply being there for it. Mediating their own experience through a screen, not quite present, not quite absent, somewhere in the gap between living and documenting. And the recordings mostly never get watched again. The moment passes into a folder. The folder fills up. The folder never opens. But the moment, the actual, unrepeatable, human moment of standing in the presence of something beautiful, that moment is gone. Let's be honest about what you're actually looking at when you scroll. You're looking at the most carefully selected moments from the most curated version of other people's lives, photographed in the best light, filtered and edited, captioned with something that sounds effortless, but was probably rewritten 4 times. And you are comparing that, comparing the polished, produced, optimized highlight reel of a stranger to the full, unedited experience of being yourself. That comparison was always going to be brutal. It was never going to be fair.
Because you know all of your failures, all of your insecurities, all of the mornings you woke up and felt like you were falling behind, all of the quiet embarrassments and unfinished projects, and conversations that didn't go the way you hoped. You know all of it. You live inside all of it. And you're comparing that, the full, raw, unfiltered experience of your own life, to someone else's greatest hits. It
produces a very particular kind of dissatisfaction. Low grade, persistent, hard to trace to any single source. A feeling that your life is somehow smaller than it should be, that you haven't done enough, become the right kind of person living the right kind of life, that others have figured something out that you haven't. And the platform feeds this. The platform profits from this. Because a person who feels inadequate keeps scrolling. A person who feels satisfied puts the phone down. Your insecurity is not a bug in the system. It is, in the most literal sense possible, a feature. The strange thing is that almost everyone on social media is performing the same act simultaneously. The person whose life makes you feel inadequate is looking at someone else's feed and feeling exactly what you feel.
This is why the feeds never end, why the autoplay never stops, why the notifications are timed to reach you when you're most likely to respond, why the content is calibrated through billions of data points to show you exactly what will keep you there a little longer. None of this is accidental. There are entire departments of some of the most talented engineers, psychologists, and behavioral scientists in the world working full-time on one problem: keeping you on the platform as long as possible. They are not thinking about your quality of life. They are not thinking about your relationships, your sleep, your focus, your sense of self-worth, or the dreams you've quietly set aside. They are thinking about engagement metrics and time on platform and quarterly revenue. And the thing being traded away, the thing being sold second by second in exchange for a feed of content you didn't ask for and won't remember, is the only truly non-renewable resource you possess. Time. Your time. The irreplaceable hours of a life that is, however long it turns out to be, finite. There's a specific experience that people describe when they take an extended break from social media. Not just a day, a real break. A week, 2 weeks, a month. At first, it's uncomfortable. There's a restlessness, an itch for stimulation. The phone gets picked up and put down again. There's a strange feeling of having nothing to do, even when there's plenty to do. The silence feels wrong. Empty. But then something shifts. Somewhere around day 3 or 4, people start to notice things they'd stopped noticing. The quality of light in the late afternoon, the sound of a conversation in a coffee shop, the way their own thoughts move when they're not constantly interrupted. Ideas start to form again. Not information consumed from somewhere else, but actual original thinking, noticing, wondering, making connections. The mind starts to recover its natural rhythm.
There's a kind of boredom that returns, not the anxious, phone-reaching boredom of the addicted attention, but a slower, more productive kind. The kind that makes you want to do something, create something, go somewhere, call a person you actually miss instead of passively watching their stories. Books become readable again, not in short bursts between scrolls, but in long, uninterrupted stretches where you actually disappear into a world. Conversations become fuller, longer, less distracted. Food tastes better when you're actually present for it. Sleep improves when the last thing your brain consumed before bed wasn't a stream of algorithmically selected outrage. The world gets its texture back. And perhaps most importantly, you start to remember what you actually want, not what the feed tells you to want, not the version of a life that gets the most engagement. What you, the specific, particular, unrepeatable person you are, actually care about. What makes you feel like yourself. What you'd be doing if nobody was watching. That question, for a lot of people, hasn't been asked in years.
This isn't a story about becoming someone who never uses their phone. That's not the point, and it's probably not realistic. Phones are tools. Social media can be useful. The internet is not the enemy. The point is something subtler and more important than abstinence.
The point is intention. The difference between using a tool and being used by it is consciousness. It's the difference between picking up your phone because you have something specific to do and picking it up because the silence was uncomfortable and the habit kicked in before you thought about it. Start by just noticing, not judging, not changing anything immediately, just watching yourself. Notice the moments when you reach for the phone. What just happened in the moment before? Were you bored? Anxious? In a conversation that had a moment of awkward silence? Notice that. Because the moment before the reach is where the pattern lives. Then, and this is simple but genuinely difficult, practice letting the discomfort be there. Sit with the boredom for 30 seconds instead of reaching for the phone. Let the silence in the elevator be silence. Let the 2 minutes while the coffee brews be 2 minutes of just existing without input. It will feel strange. It will feel almost wrong, the way suddenly sitting up straight feels wrong to one who spent years hunching. Your attention is a muscle. Right now, for a lot of people, it's profoundly undertrained. It needs practice in the same way any neglected muscle does, gradually, with patience, with the understanding that there will be resistance and discomfort at first. One of the most effective things you can do is not make your phone the first and last thing you experience in your day.
Give yourself a morning, even just 30 minutes, that belongs to you. Before the feed begins, before the notifications, before the world's stream of information starts pulling at your focus. 30 minutes of just being human first, making coffee, moving your body, thinking your own thoughts before plugging into the noise. And at night, give yourself a real ending to the day, one that isn't an infinite scroll fading into unconsciousness. Because what you consume in those last minutes before sleep is what your brain processes through the night. There's a different quality to sleep that follows genuine rest versus sleep that follows 90 minutes of algorithmically curated anxiety. Redesign your environment more than you redesign your willpower. Willpower is finite. Environments are persistent. Move the apps off your home screen. Turn off every notification that doesn't require immediate attention, which is almost all of them. Charge your phone in another room at night and buy an actual alarm clock.
Make the path to mindless scrolling slightly more inconvenient, because slightly more inconvenient is often enough to break the automatic reach. Choose occasionally and deliberately to be unreachable, to go somewhere, a walk, a meal, an afternoon, where the phone stays in your bag and the experience stays fully in your body. Notice how that feels. Notice how the world looks when you're actually in it. And then, slowly, start thinking about what you're building, what you actually want your days to feel like, what you want to be able to say you did with your attention over the course of a year, a decade, a life. Because the hours are going somewhere either way. The only question is whether you're the one deciding where. I want you to think about someone you love who is old. A grandparent, a parent, a mentor. Someone who has lived long enough to see most of what a human life looks like. The texture of it, the arc of it, the way it moves. Ask them, or imagine asking them, what do you remember? What actually stayed? Not the things they watched, not the feeds they scrolled, not the performances they maintained or the comparisons they made, or the hours they spent keeping up with lives that had nothing to do with their own. That's not what stays.
That's not what they'll talk about with the particular softness that comes into a person's voice when they're talking about something that mattered. They'll talk about mornings, specific mornings, the smell of a particular kitchen, the way a person they loved used to laugh, a conversation that happened 20 years ago that they still think about, a moment in a garden or by water or in the dark when they were fully there and something about being alive felt clear. They'll talk about ordinary things made extraordinary by the simple fact of being fully present for them.
This is what a life is made of in the end. Not the metrics, not the moments documented and posted and quantified by engagement. The actual experience of being a person in the world with the people you love, doing the things that feel meaningful. And here is the thing about screens and feeds and the endless manufactured urgency of the digital world. It doesn't feel like it's taking those moments from you while it's happening. That's what makes it so quietly devastating. It feels like nothing, like neutral time, like a small pause between the real things. But the real things are happening right now. The real things are always right now. The child who wants you to watch them do something is doing that thing right now.
The friend across the table is talking right now. The evening is beautiful right now. The season is changing right now. And one day, not dramatically, not with a single defining moment, but gradually, the way everything important happens, you will look up and realize that an enormous amount of your life has passed, and wonder how present you actually were for it. That's not a scare tactic. That's just what people at the end of their lives almost universally say. They don't wish they'd stayed more current. They don't wish they'd posted more. They wish they'd been there. Actually. Fully. Bodily. Consciously. There.
You still have that chance. Not tomorrow, not after one more scroll, one more video, one more notification. Right now, in this exact moment, you have the ability to put something down and pick something else up. You have the ability to decide, consciously, deliberately, as an act of genuine will, that your attention belongs to you. That the hours of your life are yours to spend. That the feed can wait. Because the people and moments and experiences that make life worth having don't have an algorithm. They don't send notifications. They just happen. And they end. And the only way to have really had them is to have actually been there. So be